I think the more interesting aspect of Star Wars Episode 9 has all to do with exactly how J.J. Abrams is going to end the characters of both Rey and Kylo Ren in this story that will end the Skywalker saga. This is Mike Zero. If you guys are new to the channel, do make sure to subscribe to see future Star Wars content. Now that is of course one of the big mysteries in this film. What is Kylo Ren's endgame and exactly what Rey's path will be in this movie and where these two characters will end up going by the very end in the last couple of frames of this movie that will end the sequel trilogy and the Skywalker saga itself. Now these past couple of weeks or so we've been learning a whole lot more about this film when it comes to some of the set leaks, the set designs, the concept art and storyboard descriptions, etc. One of which has all to do with Rey's new name in the overall story of this movie. Specifically a description of Rey touring a village with Dominic Monaghan's character on a desert world. It's said to be a sequence in which the two characters meet for the first time. However, briefly, it's described that Monaghan's character refers to her as the savior of the spark, and that's how his followers called her as well. It's said that Rey will often be called the savior by villagers, as well as the savior of the spark in certain moments of the film. Another describes Rey on a mission with R2-D2, Poe, and Finn, in which they travel to the exotic city, an original world in Episode 7 that never made it to the final cut. That is the location of a black market in which Rey will choose the alias of Kira, an abandoned concept by JJ for Episode 7 for the character of Rey, where he is giving the name a purpose in this story. It's described that, like Luke, Rey has become a legend and known as the Savior, the heroic act that she did on Crate saving the spark by use of the Millennium Falcon. So I want to go over a couple of parts about this that are getting me very intrigued about this movie. Now, like I say, we do know that Kylo Ren will often be described as the Jedi killer in this movie for what he did to Luke's new generation of Jedi, and of course his Jedi training temple. However, like him, the same exact thing applies here for the character of Rey from what it seems, where she will also be called something different in this movie here and there and will be given a new name. Now, the first one of course is exactly how Dominic Monaghan and his followers look up to her and actually see her as the savior or the savior of the spark. Now, in case you guys have no idea what I'm talking about, the spark was an idea in The Last Jedi in which basically the handful of the survivors of the Resistance are the only remaining people in order to create that spark of hope throughout the entire galaxy, reaching out to the outer rim, the mid-rim, and other parts of the galaxy in order for all people around the galaxy to team up in Episode 9 and to take on the First Order. Now, if it weren't for Rey and the Millennium Falcon and landing on Crate and saving the crew and taking off and saving everybody, the spark wouldn't have survived. They would have been killed off. Regardless of Luke Skywalker or not, if Luke wasn't there, either physically or, in the form of a force projection, whatever have you, Kylo Ren, regardless, in the story of Episode 8, actually was still there. So if they were still trapped inside of that mine, they would have perished. So you can see exactly what JJ is trying to do. He's not only trying to explore the legend of Luke Skywalker in this movie, but also the legend of Rey in Episode 9 and kind of giving her her own legend in the film. Now, I can see how some people would be a little bit, I guess you could say a little off about that, because if you do look at the character of Luke, he also had a great hand in saving the spark. I mean, without a doubt, right? He bought time for the Resistance to get away. So it really is, kind of like a gray area right now. Who exactly saved the spark, per se? They both had a hand in it. It was both Rey and Luke. But to me, I would think that Luke Skywalker was the real reason as to why the spark is still alive and is still living in Episode 9. Kira, to of course the Hutt cartel, and of course Rada the Hutt, Jabba the Hutt's son, in Episode 9. Honestly, I cannot wait to see exactly, what they're going to do with the characters of course, Rey and Kylo Ren, and how they're going to evolve as characters by the time the end of this movie arrives. So JJ, you can already see that he's trying to really add a lot of depth into the character of Rey. So in just 1 year, the legend of Rey has actually spread throughout the galaxy, and they're actually calling her the savior and or the savior of the spark, and she calls herself Kira when she goes to the Hutt cartel, and of course the black market in the exotic city, which may or may not be the same exact location as the Hutts, we're not quite sure. But with that being said, guys, what do you think about, Kylo Ren being referred to as the Jedi Killer, and of course Rey being referred to as both Kira and of course the Savior / the Savior of the Spark. Honestly, I kind of like the way it rolls off your tongue, the Savior of the Spark. It kind of goes in a sense, but I'm not quite sure exactly how big of a character Dominic Monaghan's character will really be in this movie. We do know that originally JJ only wanted him to be in the first act of the film. Then after the character growing on JJ, he actually gave him more screen time in this movie. It's kind of similar to what they did with Poe Dameron, right? In The Force Awakens, Poe was supposed to die in the very beginning of the movie. I believe it was when they crash landed on Jakku. He was supposed to die. Then they gave him the whole entire movie to be, of course, a real actual character and a part of the new trio. So with that being said, guys, what do you think about all this below in the comments? And if you guys did enjoy the content for today, do make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. I thank you all so very much for the kind support, and I'll catch you guys next time.
From night to moon, we hear them moans again. No.